there is going to
It is a Friday night, boys and girls. How are you? Welcome into InGame Live Prime Time. Dave Sharapan is not with us. I am Matt Perrault, alongside Adam Kaufman, with you guys the next 2 hours. Dave went to Virginia at the last second. He got on a quickie flight overnight, went to watch his daughter play softball. You'll see him later on tonight on BVB, on Bostonian versus the Book. He was live from the field today. He'll be back next week with us. Adam Kaufman with us. We got a lot to get to tonight. We've got some UFC conversations this hour. Zain Hussein's coming in, talking about the card for tomorrow. It's an early start time, by the way. That's a real afternoon card for a fight night for the UFC. We have the Celtics against the Mavericks tonight. We've got a bunch of NBA. The college slate is just awful for tonight, but we'll take a quick peek at it at some point. NFL and more. Adam, how are you on this Friday? Good to see you.
I'm good, man. I didn't know it. I'm glad that you explained why Sharapan went to Virginia, because the way that you would open that up, I didn't know that people just up and randomly decide on a whim. I'm gonna hop a quickie flight to Virginia. I didn't know that people did that. So it's good that he had good reason to do it. Hopefully the tournament goes well for him and his daughter out there, and then he's right back at in the BVP studios.
Yeah. So what he did was his wife and his other daughter will go to Florida for spring break, but it wasn't going to work because we got a bunch of stuff going on here in Vegas for March Madness and whatnot. So he couldn't go.
Sure.
So his wife surprised him and said, "Hey, here's a flight, fly to Richmond, drive." He had to go to Murfreesboro, North Carolina. So he actually had to go to North Carolina, not Virginia, but he flew to Virginia and then drove down to go watch his daughter. And she pitched today. She got her first win.
Nice.
For Felicia University, and I think she had 2 hits, and she went 6 innings and got the W. So he was through the roof today. Yeah, he was really happy. So that's why it was just sort of like a surprise thing, because he didn't think he was going to be able to see his daughter pitch during March. And then his wife said, "Here's a flight, get on a flight, go fly the red eye to the East Coast." And I think he's on 2 hours of sleep. So yeah, pretty cool for him to go and do that. So yeah, so that's why
he's running on adrenaline. That's great.
Yeah. He was pretty funny and getting a nice little introduction into the rural part of Virginia and North Carolina, which I've spent some time in both those states. So yeah, not exactly a lot going on down there besides softball and some other things down there. So, all right, the Celtics are gotten off to a really good start here. So I can just set to the table here as to what I'm at, and then you tell me what you're looking at. I'm on Luka over 3.5 threes tonight. He already has 1. It's a big start for Boston, 11-point jump out here. They closed as 8.5-point favorites, Adam. I was surprised at how heavy this number was last night, or even this morning, rather. How do you feel about this? I mean, because it feels like Boston might blow them out, but if you like the Mavericks, you can get a better price on them now.
So I completely agree with you. And the Celtics, as we sit here right now, they're up 11, about 4 minutes still to go in the opening quarter. So, yeah, this thing could go sideways in a hurry, obviously, if the C's keep doing what they're doing. And unlike their previous game that they won, eventually going away against the Sixers, they're already putting up a ton of three-point attempts, which, again, they didn't really have to do, weren't able to do in that win over Philadelphia. This game, it's just 3 points galore on both sides. It's how both teams like to play, and for that matter, I guess how most teams across the league like to play. But I'm with you. I looked at it, I think it opened at 7.5, but by the time most people were looking at it, it had already moved all the way up to 9.5, and I thought the number was too big. I didn't play it. Now, I didn't want to take Dallas with the points either, because I certainly, could see, this possibility coming. There are a multitude of plays that I have in this game, but in terms of talking about sides totals specifically, I figured the Celtics, especially wanting to get back to the 3 after they did what they did against Philadelphia, I figured there was a real good potential for a high scoring opening half. So I didn't do a full game total for be it the game or even an individual team. But I did go over on the Celtics first half points, which was sitting, I think, around 62.5, 63.5. And obviously, I mean, they're at 33 with about 3 minutes to go in the opening quarter. So they're well on their way. We'll see if it ends up happening. But I did go with that. I went with the Celtics first half spread, which was 4.5 where I got it. So, I thought that was a good play because it just felt like C's coming out strong was a good realistic possibility because they were kind of treading water quite a bit last time out against a far inferior team that clearly was missing Joel Embiid. And I think Tatum really gets up for opportunities to go against other MVP candidates like Luka Doncic, who in terms of the odds is, right there basically going step for step with Tatum right now. Now, neither of these guys, we could talk about this at some point, neither of these guys is going to win the award, but, they're both going to be in the top 5. And so they're both going to get votes. They're both going to have contention or be in contention. I just thought, this could be a game that Tatum has a really good game. Celtics get off to a fast start, score a bunch of points early, but do they take their foot off the gas late? Does the second unit come in if the Celtics are up by a bunch? Mavs go on a run to close the game, not enough to win, but enough to cover, that type of thing. So the 9.5, as we said, just too big, scared me a little bit. That being said, Celtics will probably win by 25.
Yeah, they could. I mean, I kind of have a standing order for the Celtics team total in the first half that if it's 62 or under, I bet it. It was 63.5 when I saw it, so that kept me off of it. It's always they sometimes can erupt for 70 points at home in the first quarter. So I think the first half, rather. So I think you're going to be okay with 36 points so far here already, and we got 2 minutes to play in the first quarter. So we're well on our way to seeing a 70. These two teams, by the way, the last 5 shots were all 3-pointers. So this is a 3-point shooting contest for Boston and the Mavs at the moment. So, yeah, I think we're going to be in for a pretty high-scoring game if the shots go down. So I liked your first half play a lot. I've been burned literally on the hook when it's been 63 or 63.5, and they've gone to 62 or a bet over 63.5, and it's fallen 63. It's a pretty sharp number that the books have come up with because Boston at home tends to score somewhere between 60 to 65 points every single game at home. And in the second half, that's when things really do tend to slow down for them and they take their foot off the gas, like you mentioned. So we'll watch that. My only bet on this is Luka coming in with 3.5 threes, who had a horrible shooting game his last time out, went 1 for 6. So I expect him to bounce back here, and he's checking back into the game here for the Dallas Mavericks. You mentioned the MVP battle. I mean, we can get to it right here. It's going to be pretty wild to see how this market unfolds because it's basically a 2-horse race if you look at the numbers. It's SGA and it's Jokic, and that's about it. And I hate betting on these things simply because of the fact that you're having human beings that have to go ahead and, I got to bet on what a human being thinks. But I'll be very curious to see how the next couple of weeks unfold for both Boston and other, Luka and whatnot, because Boston's going to get the 1 seed. I mean, they're so far ahead of the Cavaliers, Adam. This is like, we got to worry about resting
they
here for guys.
They can't blow it. Yeah. I mean, they're up by 8 games coming into this one for first in the East. I mean, they could, somebody had told me the other day, I don't know what the math is, but they could literally go winless the rest of the way and still qualify for the playoffs and maybe even have a home court advantage, finishing in that top 4. That's how dominant they have been to this point in time. So yeah, we could do the MVP stuff on the other side, but as far as Boston goes, yeah, they're cruising. I mean, they are way, way better, Matt, than I expected them to be at this stage of the season. I was someone who could have advocated for going under on their win total. I thought it would take some time for this group to sort of, coexist, and here they are.
Yeah, they're playing really well. More on the other side. We'll look at the other games in the NBA in action, and games will tip off as well. Matt and Adam with you Friday night. Don't move.
Team that has a great point guard, a great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole. That's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Perrault Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The Lakers lose by double digits last night on the road in Phoenix against the Suns. The Suns get their first victory following the All-Star break, winning by 10 in covering.
Anthony Davis played 42 minutes in that game. LeBron James played 37 minutes in a loss. This is the same thing. It's like repeating this over and over and over. Sure, do you want to win these basketball games? Yes, but you sort of say to yourself, all right, at what cost do we have?
The early line. only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's a Friday night in-game live prime time. Adam Kaufman, Matt Perrault with you here on SportsGrid. Thanks for hanging out with us. Halftime, Adam, in the NBA. We'll get back to talking about the Cavaliers and what they're currently doing. They are blasting at the moment the Detroit Pistons. But Adam Kaplan came on coast to coast. Caleb Williams making waves, deciding that, you know what, I'm not interviewing and you're not looking at my body. Kind of a rarity for a one pick to go to the combine and not have any medicals being done. Adam Kaplan earlier today on the news of this decision by the number 1 pick.
The big story today, Scott, and it's caused some waves, and we got to talk about this, is we talked about Caleb Williams is not going to work out here. That's not a big deal. But he's the only player, and this is my 23rd combine, I've never heard of a player saying, you know what, I'm not even going to do the medical here. That's basically unprecedented, though he did say he's going to have medicals for any team that has him in there. And by the way, all clubs share medical information. But this is unprecedented, and he's also, Scott, this is another thing. He's not represented. He doesn't even have he does not have an agent. He doesn't have an agent. No veteran agent will ever let this happen. This is ridiculous to not do medicals here.
So, Adam, this is an interesting new wrinkle. So Marvin Harrison Jr., who is the number 1 wide receiver prospect, is also going without an agent. Does this concern you at all for what these guys may look like going forward? Because for Marvin Harrison Jr., you can say, well, look at his father played a long time in the NFL. Like, his father is pretty well versed as to how the league operates. So maybe that's your excuse for saying Marvin Harrison Jr. is not going to get an agent and he's not going to work out and he's going to be somewhat, pushing back on the idea of like, hey, I'm not running, I'm not catching. Look at my film. Caleb Williams is doing the same thing, though, at the quarterback position. Any concerns?
Well, I guess there are multiple facets to this, and tell me if you disagree, obviously, but I would look at it, if I'm them, maybe the perspective is, financially speaking, what is there to gain from having an agent? If you're Caleb Williams, you are expected to go number 1. If you're not number 1, you're number 2. You're definitely going to go high. Marvin Harrison, same deal. If he's not in the top 3, he's absolutely in the top 5. There's just not a whole lot, I think anyway, that agents, in terms of, what is allowed within the CBA, what can be negotiated, there's just not a lot that they can actually, provide their clients in terms of putting a contract together. I mean, it's pretty formulaic when you're taken in that spot in the draft, as both of these guys are going to. And so, after that, you're just sort of sitting and looking at it and saying, as you alluded to, what kind of advice is good from an experienced agent, a guy who's got a whole bunch of clients, been around for decades. What can they gain? What is there to benefit from them? And I just don't know that there's, I think you want marketing representation. I think obviously agents to negotiate sponsorship deals, things like that. But in terms of your NFL contract, your first NFL contract, I think when you're that highly touted a prospect, you can kind of, short of, being a lawyer, you need to have a lawyer on retainer just to read through everything and make sure you're not getting screwed over. But the financials are the financials. They don't change all that much. And so you're just going to do it, be done, move on. And as far as at the combine, so he doesn't give his medical records. I mean, an agent wouldn't like that, wouldn't support it. Well, who cares? Because is it going to impact his draft stock? It's natural to sit here and say, well, is he hiding something? But in all likelihood, he's not. I don't know what his reason is for not wanting to share that stuff. And it's becoming across sports an increasing trend. I guess NBA and NFL are really the only ones that have meaningful combines to whatever degree they are meaningful anymore. But, these sports, guys are increasingly, by the year doing less and less in terms of the workouts and, just sort of limiting things to these specific teams that they will visit with and teams that they will interview with, and we'll share what we want to share. Like it's been trending this way for a little while now. So I'm just sort of at a point where nothing really surprises me. And I don't think there's anything to come out of this so far that's going to impact either of these guys' NFL careers.
Well, the one thing I'd push back on that is it true, and Caleb has said it's not, but these rumors keep flying around that he or his people, father, have asked teams that if you draft my son, if you draft Caleb, we'll be after some type of ownership stake in the team. Now, you can't do that in the NFL, but they're asking for some type of, like, when he's done playing, that he will be eligible for some type of percentage of the team. And are you willing to do that? And if you're not, maybe you shouldn't be drafting my son. Maybe you shouldn't be drafting Caleb. Is that true? Because if that's true, that's one big red flag. The second other big red flag is just like,
can you even put that in you can't put that in writing though, can you?
I don't know. That's what everyone's saying is like, they don't know what the CBA really says about that. You cannot be an active player and have a stake in ownership, but
right.
Can you,
otherwise Tom Brady would have by now.
Right. Could you do an Ohtani where you defer it and say, hey, it's going to be after I'm done. And when I'm done, you're then going to sell me a stake for X number of dollars, and I'm going to buy in, and I'm going to have the chance to become a part owner of this franchise for however millions of dollars. I'll have a buyer's option to play if I want to buy it. No one really knows if that's legal or not to do that, but the ask of it is what caused people to go, wait a minute, whoa, hold on. This is a little bit much. And look, there's a lot of people, Dan Orlovsky and others on ESPN and big platforms are really pushing Jaden Daniels as the one pick, saying there shouldn't be a debate here. The better quarterback is Jaden Daniels. It should not be Caleb Williams. He's had 2 very good years, but he played against very weak defenses. He had a very good offense to run with good receivers. This is a guy you got to be careful of because in the NFL, he's not elevating the players around him. He's the guy. He's good, but the players around him were just as good, and that's why he looks so great in the offense run by USC and Oklahoma. So I'm a little bit suspect on Caleb Williams, to be frank. I'm suspect actually on all 3 of these quarterbacks. Drake May, who I've loved for a long time out of North Carolina. I think he could be a really talented pro, depending on where he winds up going. But all 3 guys at the top have big questions in my mind. I don't think any of them are these generational talents. They're not Andrew Luck. I don't think any 3 of these guys are surefire. Yes, 100%. They're going to go number 1. That number right there on Jaden Daniels at 25-1 to be the number 1 pick is fascinating because yes, it's a big number, big juice on Caleb Williams, but Drake May being assumed as the second option, meaning he's going to be the second pick in the draft. That's got to be just because the Commanders, they drafted Sam Howell, so I guess they're going to go ahead and draft Drake May and put 2 North Carolina quarterbacks on their roster. But I mean, 1, 2, 3 is you can't trade the first pick in my mind 2 years in a row if you're the Bears. The Commanders can't miss, and the Patriots can't miss. You're in Boston. Anyone talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. going third, or is it quarterback only?
It depends who you talk to and who you ask. You know, there's certainly a movement for Marvin Harrison, just being because as you noted, and you know, forgive me any SportsGrid viewers or listeners that have heard me say this before, because I feel like I've just been banging this drum for weeks now. There is no sure thing. I mean, there's no sure thing in the draft. Like it's a dart throw, it's a crapshoot. Like Mel Kiper, you're on equal footing as far as I'm concerned. We're all just freaking guessing out here. But no, seriously, we can sit here and say, of course it's Caleb Williams going number 1. I mean, why wouldn't it be? Well, of course it's Jaden Daniels. Of course it's Drake May. Of course, whoever. Fact of the matter is, for every Trevor Lawrence, who, by the way, is not the generational talent, at least so far, that everyone expected him to be, the second coming of Peyton Manning, all that stuff. For every Trevor Lawrence, there's a Zach Wilson. For every, CJ Stroud, there's a Bryce Young. And you can go all the way back throughout history. You go to Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf, to Drew Bledsoe and Rick Meyer. Like, there are a billion examples of this where QBs always have the edge. They're always going to go, heavy. They're going to be 5, 6 in the first round. There might be 1, 2, 3, as you talked about, right off the top, because everyone is looking for that lottery ticket, because the league knows you need to have a quarterback to be successful. But in terms of, who is the closest quote-unquote sure thing, it probably is Marvin Harrison Jr. Look at the pedigree, look at the experience, the explosiveness of talent. I mean, if I were the Patriots at 3, I'd think long and hard about that.
Pull a Belichick, trade down, make everyone freak out in Boston.
They probably will.
Team that has a great point guard, a great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole, that's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of a spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Perrault Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The Lakers lose by double digits last night on the road in Phoenix against the Suns. The Suns get their first victory following the All-Star break, winning by 10 in covering.
Anthony Davis played 42 minutes in that game. LeBron James played 37 minutes in a loss. This is the same thing. It's like repeating this over and over and over. Sure, do you want to win these basketball games? Yes, but you sort of say to yourself, all right, at what cost do we have?
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It is a Friday night in-game live primetime. Matt Perrault and Adam Kaufman with you guys. We'll talk to Zaid Hussein. He, a UFC and MMA gambler bettor. We'll have him on to hear his picks coming up for the fight card tomorrow. It's an early fight card here before we get into the big UFC pay-per-view next week. We'll get his early thoughts on that card as well coming up here in the next segment. But in the meantime, NBA action going on. I'm on the under Cavs and the Pistons here. The live total is 215.5. I don't know if I bet the under there, but this number was coming down. 69-52, the lead for the Cavaliers. Pistons are at home catching 14.5. Adam, any interest?
No. I mean, it's a big number. I get it, but the Pistons are still the Pistons. We're talking about a team that hasn't won 10 games. That being said, I said this, I think off air at this point, but so I built out a few leg money line parlay earlier with the Cavs being part of it. And this is before all of the injury news going into the game. And I was real nervous about it once everything was announced. I mean, there's no Donovan Mitchell in this game, who's obviously the best player on the floor, either team. And there's, Karis LeVert was ruled out as well. So all of a sudden it's like, man, Darius Garland and Evan Mobley need to run the show. And I was a little skeptical that with Cade Cunningham on the other side, even though I did take his under for points in this game, and we'll see how that goes. He's trending in probably the wrong direction. He's at 12. And that total was 22.5. It's early in the third quarter, so we'll see. But, the Cavaliers being up by 17 now is, if you had told me that when Mitchell and LeVert were ruled out, I would have been shocked. I never would have seen this coming. But the fact that we're here now, no, I think the Pistons are mailing it in. I think they've given up. I could see this being a 20, 25-point game. I wouldn't go 14.5.
Yeah, I hope you're right, because that means the under is going to come in if the Pistons just punt on the game. They're down 20, 72-52 now here to Cleveland. So hopefully Detroit just says, forget it. Okay, Friday night, let's go do something else later on tonight, then play basketball. And the under comes in at 220, I believe 221, 222 I played. I can't remember the number that I played on that. But for the under for that one. The Sixers are tied with the Hornets. 81 all, which just goes to show you the ineptitude of the Sixers right now, given what Milwaukee did to the Hornets their last two games. Wow, the Raptors are leading the Golden State Warriors 57-55. Raptors are still home dogs, catching 2.5 to the Golden State Warriors. Your over in the first half is trending nicely. Celtics are up 50-44 with 6.5 to play in the second quarter. You played over 63.5, you said, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're going there. Pelicans 40-18. Quick lead out on the Indiana Pacers. That total up to 246.5. 17.5 point number. How about Indiana plus 17.5? They're down 20.
I could see there being a run. I mean, you could talk me into that number. I mean, the Pelicans are not this. They're good, but they're not elite. They're not a team they're not a step on your throat kind of team. Now, that being said, they're fully armed tonight. They've just had guys in and out of the lineup and they're healthy, and it's been the Brandon Ingram show so far. He's got half their 40 points to this point in time, still, as you said, with 2 minutes to go in the opening quarter. So, I could see the Pacers with Halliburton and company making a little bit of a run. Probably not enough to win the game, but, let's not forget just how prolific that Indiana offense was throughout the first half of the season. I mean, every night we were sitting here talking about, do you play the over in the Pacers game? Pacers are involved. It's up tempo. It's high pace. It's fast breaks left and right. Loads of 3-pointers. Halliburton's going to have 15 assists. Yada yada yada. Play Indy. And so, I think unlike the Detroit spot, I think this is one you could talk me into the Pacers catching all those points, just making a run, making this a game.
Yeah, I need it, most likely. I'm on over 1.5 threes for Brandon Ingram. I got even money on that. He's 1 for 1 with 19 points on 9 of 11 shooting, like you mentioned. The Brandon Ingram show, from a DFS perspective, hopefully he's in your lineup because he's got 19 points in the first quarter. So he might be going for an epic type of performance here for the New Orleans Pelicans with the Pacers, as we know, who don't like to play defense anyway. 123 was the point total in the first game between these two teams for Indiana. So they're definitely capable of scoring against the Pelicans, but 20 points is 20 points. It is early, so you can get a pretty tasty number at 17.5 with 2 to play in the first quarter there. The Bucks and the Bulls, I'm on the under in this game. It's continuing to come down. I'm on under 223 for the Bucks and the Bulls. Milwaukee's been an absolute under machine on the road over the last couple of months, but Chicago, not great, but Bucks on a back-to-back. You want to lay 4 points with Milwaukee tonight?
I would. And look, I've been as critical of Milwaukee throughout the year as anybody, but you can't ignore what this team has been doing since the All-Star break. They have figured something out under Doc Rivers, whether it's ultimately the talent executing his system, working together a little bit better. I still think Damian Lillard is just a little pedestrian by Dame standards. I mean, last night should have been a total smash spot for him. I mean, this was one, and chalky, don't get me wrong, like everybody, it felt like in the gambling, at least the NBA gambling community, was on Lillard overs, whether it was over for his PRA, over for rebounds, assists, over for just rebounds, over whatever, and he just totally under-delivered. It was a rough night for him, and it didn't matter. Bucks still went out and thumped. We'll see what they end up doing tonight, but I'd be comfortable taking the number. It's not huge. I know it's a back-to-back, but it's not a huge number. And, this is where I would look to Lillard, and I would go back to the well. I would play the overs because I think he's going to respond. I mean, you kind of have to at a certain point, right? I mean, he's a veteran. He's been around for a long time. He's had multiple playoff runs, only one that was particularly deep when he went to a Western Conference Finals. Back at the All-Star game only a couple weeks back, you got Shaq calling you out to your face on national TV saying, if you want a ring, if you want one of these that I've got over here, that my guy down the road, Chuck, never figured out, you and Giannis need to just look at each other and don't be afraid to be a-holes. You got to take charge of this thing. It's up to you two and Doc, I suppose, to go out there and run this thing. If you're too kind, too nice, too, just trying to keep everybody afloat, then ultimately the ship is going to sink. If you want to, have a chance to hoist the trophy, raise a banner, you need to ultimately tell everyone every once in a while to get out of the way and just hop on my back. And he just sort of took it and said, yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's like being lectured by a parent when you kind of realize something, you don't feel like hearing it. This Giannis has done it. Like the Bucks have done it. They've won. They know what it's like. Lillard is the guy coming in that they brought in to, one, help them get over the hump again because they are no longer the, without question, top team in the East. They are obviously a team that needed some help and needed some convincing to, put another star around Giannis to help convince him to stick around. But also, this is an opportunity for Lillard, most importantly, to do what he was never able to realize to achieve in Portland. And I don't think they will. But I think they'll be there. I think they'll, if this team isn't in, people like to talk, at least people around Boston like to look at the Celtics and say, best team in the NBA, deepest team in the NBA, if healthy. This is an NBA finals or bust. This is championship or bust. This is banner 18. Yep. This is the year you have to win. If you're the Bucks, you have to look at this and at the very least say it's conference finals or bust. I mean, if you don't go to at least the conference finals, something has gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, well, you've fired a coach that was 33-13 to go ahead and bring in Doc Rivers. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a bare minimum for them to make the conference finals. That number, interesting. I still think there's tremendous value in the Miami Heat, and I can't wait to watch the bracket as we finally get there because I think you could easily take a 14-1 flyer on Miami. If it is Boston against Miami in the conference finals, you can just hedge off of that number. Or if Boston winds up playing Miami in the semifinals, you can hedge off that number. So, I love that. I don't buy the Cavaliers. I don't buy the Knicks. The Bucks have Giannis, so you have to be obviously respectful of what he's done and what he can do. Chris Middleton's been sort of an up and down guy, battling injuries over the last couple of years for Milwaukee. And look, I'm on over a half a three here for Giannis. In the last 4 games for Giannis, he's only missed 1 3. Now, he only takes like 1 or 2 a game, but he's hit them, consistently hit them, because they say go ahead. They give him the open shot, and he's been knocking it down over the last 4 games. So I got that at plus money, actually, on Giannis over a half, and I'm on the under in that game as well. So I just think you look at the numbers for the Bucks. They're 18-11-1 to the under on the road. They're 8-1-1 to the under over their last 10, and 4-0-1 to the under over their last 5. They haven't played a game that's gone over all the way back since the 8th of February was the last time. So they are really clamping down defensively. It's turned into wins for them, playing better on the defensive end. So Doc Rivers has got them playing better defensively, but we'll see how this Bucks team plays over the next couple of weeks, because they were horrific right when they got Doc, and now they've seemingly turned things around, but they've played some really bad basketball teams. I mean, they're playing Charlotte, Philadelphia, Minnesota's good, obviously, but Memphis is bad. They lost to the Miami Heat. They did beat Denver at home, which is a good W, but I'm not jumping up and down about the Milwaukee Bucks and where they are. I don't think they're the second best team in the East. I think that's Miami, and I think we're going to find out come the playoffs when Miami decides to play Miami basketball. Here we go.
You said about it real quick. I know we got a break, but you mentioned, Timberwolves are good, and they are. They're at the top of the West. But do you believe in them? I don't believe in Minnesota at all when it comes to a playoff series.
No. Not against Denver. I mean, Denver's the best team in the West. Denver's the best team in basketball. I mean, I think Denver's better than Boston, and I think Denver can beat Boston. So I think if the Celtics play the Nuggets, they're going to lose. And I would love to see somebody knock off Denver, because there's no answer for Jokic. They have nobody that they can put up against him. And that's where Robert Williams is lacking, and they lost him obviously in the trade. So, I know why they made the trade, but they don't have that rim protector, that body down low, because Al Horford's great against Embiid, not so much against Jokic. More to come. UFC talk next year.
Point guard, a great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole. That's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Perrault Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The Lakers lose by double digits last night on the road in Phoenix against the Suns. The Suns get their first victory following the All-Star break, winning by 10 and covering.
Anthony Davis played 42 minutes in that game. LeBron James played 37 minutes in a loss. This is the same thing. It's like repeating this over and over and over. Sure, you want to win these basketball games, yes, but you sort of say to yourself, all right, at what cost do we have?
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night, I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Oh, baby, let's talk some fighting. We got a card tomorrow. It's an early start. In-game live Saturday. Zaid Hussein, UFC gambler, joining us from time to time here on In-Game. Normally, Dave Sharp and I are with them when Big Z comes on in. Zaid, how are you? Happy Friday night. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate your time.
How you doing? Always great to be on with you.
All right, so before we get to tomorrow, let's talk about 299 and then 300 as well. Let's start with the main event in 300 because it's been sort of like that sad trombone when we found out the main event for UFC 300, an event that'll happen here in Las Vegas coming up in April. Were you hoping for a John Jones? Were you hoping for a Conor McGregor? Were you hoping for a big marquee? It's UFC.
Yeah. So for UFC 300, to me, honestly, I was looking for that bigger name. And what we've seen now is Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. And this fight right here is kind of a letdown fight for everybody. I think everybody saw it. They were just kind of like, damn. They tried making Chimaev versus Leon Edwards. That's a fight where, Ramadan's coming up, so Chimaev didn't really want to train during that time. You saw Rakhmonov as well. Obviously didn't want to train. So with Ramadan coming up, those are fighters that were eliminated. I'm surprised that they didn't call, even though he's not a big name, Bilal Muhammad versus Leon Edwards. He wasn't mentioned in the top 3 fighters to fight for the title. But, I mean, when you look at what he's done in the past, his strength of schedule, everybody that he's beat, he should be next in line for that belt. I think with John Jones, the injury.
Yeah. Did you buy the injury? Yeah. Because he was throwing guys around. We got video of John Jones, some shoulder injury for John Jones. Are you buying that he's got a shoulder problem?
Honestly, you have to. It's like he had surgery and it was fully torn. I mean, maybe he's just been able to do what he did. I looked at the video and I was like, but I mean, when you get into hardcore training and you're training every day, you just need more time at that point.
Yeah, I was hoping we were going to see a John Jones because we know that Stipe Miocic won't fight again until it's John Jones. So, and he's got one more fight left, and Stipe is fine staying on the sidelines and not fighting just somebody for an interim belt. He wants to fight John Jones, and that's his legacy fight, and then he'll ride off into the sunset. Do you believe Conor McGregor fights ever again in the UFC?
Yes, and I think it's going to come International Fight Week, honestly, in June. June 29, Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor. I believe that is the fight that will be made.
Wow.
I actually talked to Michael Chandler, at the fight a couple weeks ago in Anaheim, California, and he told me that's what he's looking to do, and that's what they're looking for. And if you remember,
looking to do is Conor looking to do that?
Yes, but Conor also, I think it sets up International Fight Week. It's the biggest time of the year. Everybody's going to be out there. It's Vegas. It's in the summer. I think that's when the UFC will bring Conor back for that big of a show. And they get it rolling. And I like Michael Chandler huge in that spot when it does happen. If it does happen.
Weight class? What weight class are we talking about? 170?
I think 170. Yeah, 170.
Oh, my goodness gracious. It's so funny because when Conor won the belt at 145, I was like, you know what? I don't know if he'll ever fight at 145 ever again. He never did. He fought at 155 and then up. And then now he's fighting at 170. And it's like, okay, when is he going to go to 185? Like, he's just not interested in cutting weight at all. And I give Michael Chandler a ton of credit. His whole career has been put on hold, waiting for this legacy fight, waiting for this big payday. He's had to wait and wait and wait and wait. And now I hope he gets it in this summer in Vegas. Would be tremendous. I'm just not holding my breath with Conor McGregor. As Dana keeps on saying, he's got a lot of money and fighting just really isn't that important to him at the moment. He's got other things, other priorities. Before we get to tomorrow, the main event in 299, you're going to it next week. Where are you on Sean O'Malley? Are you up on him? Is this his time or is it Vera's time to take the belt?
I think this is a spot where you can't. It's perfectly lined. Like you have to take Sean O'Malley for what he is, and that he's an elite striker. And maybe we saw in the matchup in the past of what he did with Vera. Obviously, Vera coming out on top, but with O'Malley, he's rolling right now. This is a fight he literally handpicked. There was Marab out there. There was other legit contenders. You got to remember, Marlon Cheeto Vera is a guy that just got 50-45 by Corey Sandhagen. Sandhagen just absolutely dominated him. And then, he gets a win and he's right back in the title contention. But this is a matchup stylistically. I think that's a good matchup for Sean O'Malley. He's going to address the legs and the leg kicks, which Cheeto Vera had success with in the past. I think it's rightfully priced at around the $225 price tag. For me, either playing O'Malley or pass. I can't play a plus 160, plus 170 on Vera here.
Do you buy any of this nonsense talk about him fighting Ryan Garcia? Like that this might actually happen at one day where a boxer gets into the UFC or gets into an MMA fight with a guy who holds a belt in the UFC?
I think Dana White would not be opposed to it, as a lot of other people have said. He's always talked about how boxers never want to come in the MMA octagon. And, we heard talks about Deontay Wilder in the past wanting to come shift over to MMA. But if Ryan Garcia is calling for it and the money's right, I don't see why Dana White wouldn't do it, especially when the fact that Sean O'Malley would, in my opinion, absolutely destroy Ryan Garcia in an MMA fight. So it's like kind of the Conor Floyd situation all over again, because guess what? Your champion is not losing here in the spot. He has everything going for him in this fight. If Ryan Garcia stepped in the ring, he gets finished inside 3 minutes.
Yeah, I loved what Devin Haney said to Ariel Helwani when he was like, no, he's not going to be able to fight in the MMA, and Ryan Garcia would get killed if he was going to go into an MMA fight against. The difference, as somebody who picked up boxing later in life and who went to gyms and watched guys do BJJ and watch their wrestling and watch their abilities to do grappling and kicks, like it is apples to oranges. Like it is completely a different sport. And I get very frustrated when I hear boxers talk about that MMA is easy to pick up. And like, yeah, I go with it. I roll with guys on BJJ. I can handle it. Like, guys, like, what are you talking about? Yeah. You get killed up against that. It's not even going to be a fair fight if that happens.
I know. It's like one leg kick for some of these boxers will just end the fight right there. It's like Dana White said it best. You see so many MMA fighters want to shift over to boxing, but you never really see a boxer who truly wants to shift over to MMA because, you'll see what the result would be.
Yeah, you're heavy on your feet in boxing. You're taught to be heavy on your back leg in boxing. You can't do that in mixed martial arts. You got to be light on your toes.
Takedown.
Yeah,
one takedown. Yeah, it's the fight. It's the fight anywhere it goes.
Yeah, one takedown, one submission attempt, get someone on your back and it's over. Like it would be quick. So anyways, it's laughable that we get into this. All right, let's talk about tomorrow. This is an early fight card here. What are you playing? Main event. I can't believe Rosenstrike's a dog here in the main event tomorrow. I can't. What am I missing here? Why is this in a heavyweight fight? Why is Rosenstrike a dog?
I asked myself the same question. Why is Rosenstrike a dog here? I think this is more of a recency bias type of thing here. Rosenstrike hasn't really been that active. Shamil coming off a couple great performances. But when you look at the competition that he's faced, the Contender Series, he fought, let's be honest, a really, really bad opponent. And then he goes on and he wins a fight against Boudet, who's honestly, showed nothing on the feet. Shamil just walked him down. But Rosenstrike here is a legit kickboxer. He has legit power, he has great hands, and he has, great timing. I think if Shamil goes to press him here, that Rosenstrike will be able to counter back well, and he should not be plus 150 here. I like him by KO, and I like him at plus 150 as well. I don't see this fight going distance because I think Shamil's the type of guy where he's going to pressure forward, and if he doesn't have success, he will gas. And once he gasses and that gas tank goes, I think Rosenstrike will be able to put him out on the feet.
Talk about that a little bit more if you could, because this is one way that you bet. You don't bet sides. You bet method of victory. Why?
I look at when you bet method of victory, you're taking the best equity you can on a fighter's win. So if you have a Derek Lewis who literally only wins by knockout, you're not going to lay a minus 150 or let's say he's a dog at plus 150. You're going to take him by KO because that's the way he's most likely to win. So if I feel a method of victory line is way off compared to just, the regular money line, I'm going to take the method of victory side all day here.
So you can get Rosenstrike at plus 180 by knockout. The round total is 1.5. This is a main event now, so it's a heavyweight fight, so we could go 5. We're not going 5. Do you have any? Do you like under 1.5? Is it Rosenstrike quick, or could he go into the second or third round here and then get the KO?
Shamil's going to pressure forward, and what you see with him is he's really good in the first round, but, we haven't really seen him in that second round or that third round where, he faces some resistance. And this is a fight where he will 100% face some resistance. So I think maybe they get out of the first round and we see a second round finish for sure for Rosenstrike. I like the second round, early second to middle second round.
So under 1.5?
Yes.
Or
yes,
over 1.5?
I would have to play the under 1.5. I think if it ends, it gets out of the first, it ends early in the second.
All right. Anything else for the card tomorrow night that catches your attention?
A couple fights. For me, it's the Oliveira versus Sopaj fight. This is a fight, literally a week notice. Sopaj comes on and takes a fight. Under 1.5 rounds here is something that I love. Oliveira is a fighter who, out of his last 9 fights, went the distance twice. He's a knockout artist. He's a guy that's going to come forward. He's going to pressure you. They actually got into a little bit of an altercation the other day backstage, for the pre-fight media stuff. These two guys do not like each other, and this was a short notice fight on the flip side. Both fighters are game here. It's a close line at -140, -130 range right now. Both these guys are going to stand and bang and strike, and I think we see it finished very, very early. I like the plus money on the under here.
Anything else that catches your eye on this besides those two fights?
Yeah, we have Umar Nurmagomedov, back again, taking on the UFC newcomer in Al Makan. Overall, Nurmagomedov, I think, is a top 3 bantamweight in the world. I mean, as you can see, nobody has lined up to fight him. There's a reason why he's fighting a UFC newcomer for as good as he is, because nobody wants to fight him. And this is a spot where both fighters, Al Makan has shown, he's a huge dog here, but he has some real skills on the feet. And I think this is a fight where both fighters are going to stand and bang. This is going to be a showcase fight for Nurmagomedov. One of these guys are going to get the finish. Obviously, I think it's going to be Umar, being that he's a -1,000 favorite here. But this is a spot where this fight gets finished and he makes a statement on why he should be next for the belt. And you know what? If nobody's lining up to fight him, I think he should just skip past everybody. Skip him.
And just go what? Skip him and go where?
He should fight after Merab for the title if nobody else is going to fight him. I truly believe that. Yeah, he's that good, and I think people don't realize it because we never really see him in the octagon. He was supposed to fight Sandhagen. He suffered an injury. Before that, nobody was lining up to fight this guy. This guy is, just denied fight after fight after fight because he's so scary to fight. And I've had the privilege of watching him in person and seeing him train up and close, and this guy's legit. He has legit ground skills. He has legit striking, and him and his brother are 2 superstars, and his brother being in Bellator, absolute monster. And these guys are going to take over.
Any thoughts on Alex Perez being a plus 280 dog? That seems to be a little high.
Yeah, I think he has some equity here. I think with Perez as well, it's more of a recency bias on the Mokaev side. Muhammad Mokaev, while he's won many fights, he hasn't done so real pretty. He's faced some adversity in his fights. And this is a guy in Alex Perez who has a legit collegiate wrestling background. He can defend the takedowns. He can keep this fight standing. And I think he has many ways to win this fight. Now you're getting him right now at about a plus 280 to plus 300 price tag. I think you have to take it.
I love it. What's your favorite play tomorrow?
Favorite play tomorrow got to be Jairzinho Rosenstrike. I think, the value is just there at the plus 150 price tag in the main event. This is really, Shamil is someone we haven't seen that much in the octagon, and this is kind of like a fraud check spot. Does he really have it? Does he really not have it? And we'll see tomorrow night with Rosenstrike at plus 150.
I love the plus 180 too. If you don't want to get the KO prop, maybe half a unit on the KO, half a unit on the money line victory as well. Z, where can people follow you on socials?
You can follow me at Zaid Hussein on Twitter and Instagram, and we'll be posting plays there every single week.
Good stuff. Zaid Hussein joining us here. Adam Kaufman back in. Enjoy the fights tomorrow night. Should be a lot of fun. More to come. InGame Live Friday night.
A great point guard, a great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole. That's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of a spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Perrault Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The Lakers lose by double digits last night on the road in Phoenix against the Suns. The Suns get their first victory following the All-Star break, winning by 10 in covering.
Anthony Davis played 42 minutes in that game. LeBron James played 37 minutes in a loss. This is the same thing. It's like repeating this over and over and over. Sure, do you want to win these basketball games? Yes, but you sort of say to yourself, all right, at what cost do we have?
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It is a Friday night in-game live primetime. Thanks to Zaid Hussein for stopping on by. We'll talk to Cam Stewart in the next hour, get his picks and thoughts for the weekend, maybe a little golf conversation with him. Adam Kaufman back with me. Matt Perrault with you. It is a pretty impressive offensive performance for the Boston Celtics, Adam, so far. They got 71 points starting in the third quarter, early third quarter, 11 made threes for Boston. When they shoot like this, they don't lose very often.
No, you're right, but it's a 7-point game right now, early in the third quarter. Remember, the Celtics looked like they had a chance early on to kind of run away with this thing. And I know you can't count out a team that has Luka Doncic on the other side, especially as he flirts with the triple-double, and he's having himself a great day. But he had a woefully slow start out of Jason Tatum. He's woken up, has 14, 4, and 3 right now in his 24 minutes. And like I said, basically the entire second half to go. But it just goes back to what we were talking about early. Did you like the Celtics team total over for the first half? Yes. Bet it, won it. Did you like the Celtics to cover in the first half? Yes. Bet it, won it. But do you like the Celtics minus 9.5 for the game if that's where you got it coming in? And we both said, possible, absolutely, but feels like a big number. Well, now, just as I ramble, it's a 4-point game. So I think the Celtics will win this game. I do. And, they've won 9 in a row. They're obviously the best team in the league in general, best team in the league on home court. They'll get it done. I have faith they will get it done. But Dallas doesn't seem like it's going to go away quietly here, Matt.
So I'm watching the under in the Cleveland-Detroit game. It's 98-76, so we're trending in the right direction there, although would like to see Cleveland slow down a little bit on the scoring, 223. For that game, I need another 3 from Brandon Ingram, who was 1 for 1. I went over 1.5 threes for him. I'm on over 3.5 threes for Luka Doncic. He's 3 for 7, 25 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. almost the whole second half to go. And I mean, Luka's got a chance at a triple-double. He has a real good shot at getting there at the moment. If you bet Luka to go for a triple-double tonight against the Celtics, it's 77-70. Boston leading with 8 to play in the third quarter. This is a goodbye and a high. Do not move. Hour 1 done. Hour 2 starts on the other side. Adam Kaufman, Matt Perrault. More to come. In-game live here on SportsGrid.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
In-game live, primetime Friday night. Adam Kaufman and Matt Perrault with you guys here on SportsGrid. Thank you for hanging out. About 40 minutes from now, Cam Stewart will stop on by. We'll get his thoughts and picks and plays. We're watching the NBA and the Luka Doncic show at the moment. Luka is having himself a game. He's got 25 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, and it's a 3-point lead for the Celtics. They had a double-digit lead for most of the first half, but like most Celtics games these days, they go up big in the first half, and then they melt. And here comes the Dallas Mavericks with a 16-12 record on the road for them. Boston 27-3. Adam, are you concerned at all? Do you get involved with Boston here at a lower number? It closed at 9.5, but you can get them here 4, 4.5, 5, depending on the book you're looking at.
Well, I think what that number is telling you is that the books aren't scared. If it's a 3-point game here and Dallas is on the run that it is, and I know it's not humans doing it, it's an algorithm, but we're sitting here with 7 minutes and change to go in the third quarter, and you're still getting pretty damn close to the same number that you got coming into the game. I know it's a 4-point difference, but that still tells me the books are looking at the Celtics to win this thing, rather comfortably. It's not going to come down to the final possession, for instance, and I would tend to agree. Would I want to bet it live? No, because I'm just comfortable with the bets I've already made on this game, but if you're looking for a little bit of action, I think the Celtics, one thing they have done really well this year, Matt, and it's gotten better over the last couple of years in general, is closing games. This team, there are so many instances watching this team play games this year, even early on when Porzingis and Holiday had just arrived and this team was sort of figuring out how to work together and gel and all of that, really kind of on the fly outside of obviously training camp and whatever extent of preseason games the guys even playing at this point in time. Right out of the chute, they had their closing lineup. They didn't wilt under any sort of pressure. They, really had these step on your throat moments to close games. I mean, there have been at least a handful of games this year, at least, where I could look at that game as I'm watching it and I would say to myself, 2 years ago, they lose this game. Exact same situation, same time left, same score, same opponent, same guys on the floor for the most part. They lose this game. Some of that is growth, mental, physical, just the ability, obviously, all of it. We're at the point where, and this goes back to kind of the playoff conversation, championship hopes, and all of that stuff. Expectations have evolved for this team and for these guys. And I know you've had conversations about it yourself as well on BVB. There are people that want to, just thrust Jason Tatum into the MVP conversation because, best player, best team and all of that. But I think what's even more impressive than any sort of individual accolades is that we are at that point where definitively it's his team and Jaylen Brown's team, that 1A, 1B, but Tatum is the guy. Brown's a perennial all-star, maybe even perennial all-NBA, but Tatum is a perennial MVP candidate. He is an absolute all-MVP or all-NBA first-team guy at this point every single year so long as he's healthy. He is a full-on superstar. Pardon me. Brown, all-star. Tatum, superstar. There's a difference. And there's just a certain growth and maturity when you watch, any guys that is true of across the league. And it's a very small number in comparison to the number of guys that play this game, obviously, to where you look at them and just say, not afraid of the moment, confident, going to take over down the stretch, going to close strong. And the Celtics, with their stars, have reached that point.
So after the All-Star break, NBA unders have been on basically a 75% clip. It's been one of the more insane runs. The Cavaliers and the Pistons, the live total is 211.5. I played under 223 in that game. It's 100-84. Cleveland's all over the Detroit Pistons with 6 to play in the fourth quarter, so probably pretty safe there with that under. At the break, this number closed at 209. I was talking to Joe Ranieri a couple of hours ago at the end of his show, and we were looking at the total of 209, which is one of the lowest totals of the second half of the season in the NBA. And right now it's 51-45. The Trailblazers up on the Grizzlies. 197.5 is the halftime total here for this game. And I probably would still bet under in that game, given the way that Memphis and the Grizzlies, who I think are 28-1 over their last 29 games at home, to the under. So Memphis does not score. They play a grinder type of style. I like the under in the T-Wolves in the Kings game, but that may be a little bit more of a sweat. It's 224.5 live, 3 to play in the second quarter. It's 51-50. The T-Wolves leading the Sacramento Kings. The total the live line went to 6.5 now for Boston. They're up by 5, 84-79, but 244.5. You want to bet over 244.5 in Celtics Mavs? Because I don't think anyone's playing defense here.
Ah, boy, 8-point lead for the Celtics, mid-third. We're at, 166 now? No, 244.5 still feels a little long. I mean, don't you think? Are you expecting we're going to see a 60, 70-point fourth quarter?
Yeah, I think you may see a crazy fourth quarter. I think you're going to see Jack and threes like crazy, and I'm not sure we're not going to see a bunch of shots being flying up like crazy on both sides. So I would lean towards the over in that, but we also might get overtime. I mean, Boston's going to finish the third quarter potentially with 100 points. I mean, they've got 87 with 5 to play in the third quarter. So, like, I mean, they could wind up with 125.
They better finish with 100 points.
Yeah, so like 125, 120, somewhere in that range is like how many points does Dallas have? They come back with 120. It could be like a 125, 120 final, and then we're going over 244.5. So not a lot of defense being played in Boston tonight, and kind of the exact opposite of other games around the league. New Orleans up 77-56 on Indiana. At all interested in like a 16-point cushion here, plus 16? Any faith in the Pacers to come back here and make this a game against a Pelicans team at home?
Well, I mean, I told you I would have taken it at 17.5 last time we talked about it, which was after the first quarter or late in the first quarter, and it's only gotten a little bit worse, I guess. I mean, it's pretty close to where we were at. It's sitting at 21 right now, as you just said. The Pelicans in front at halftime. I still believe in Indy, not to obviously come back and win, but just to not get absolutely embarrassed and lose by 20-plus points. So, yeah, I could still be talked into investing in the Pacers at this point in time, but they are running out of time for a big number like that. Like, you've got to be, for me to feel good about it, I feel like they need to cut that deficit and be down, 15, 16 points at the end of 3, and then just maintain at that point in time. So can you outscore the Pelicans by 6 in the third quarter? Certainly they have the ability to do it. I just don't know if they will.
So there is one game I have my eye on. It's Dayton on the road against Loyola Chicago. This is a big game in the A10. It just tipped off. The number was 1.5 for Dayton. So I want to watch this game. This is what we do here on InGame Live. I couldn't bet this live, but I'm looking for like 3.5 or 4 points on the Ramblers at home. I think they could win the game outright. We'll watch that game and the rest of the NHL slate and NBA slate next as well here InGame Live on Friday night.
A great point guard, a great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole, that's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of a spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Perrault Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The Lakers lose by double digits last night on the road in Phoenix against the Suns. The Suns get their first victory following the All-Star break, winning by 10 in covering.
Anthony Davis played 42 minutes in that game. LeBron James played 37 minutes in a loss. This is the same thing. It's like repeating this over and over and over. Sure, you want to win these basketball games, yes, but you sort of say to yourself, all right, at what cost do we have?
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It is a Friday night in-game live primetime. Adam Kaufman, Matt Perrault with you guys here on SportsGrid. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're looking at NBA. We're watching that Dayton and that Loyola game. We'll get an update on that here in just one second. Celtics triple-double watch going on for Luka. All he needs is one more rebound, I believe. He's got his triple-double. I need one more 3 for Luka to go over 3.5 threes that I bet today. Adam already hit 2 bets on that. Boston in the first half. Team total in Boston on the spread at 4.5 in the first half. So that's going to look like hopefully a profitable game for both of us here watching other NBAs as well. Not a great college slate tonight. It's why we haven't talked much about it, but there is a tremendous college slate coming up tomorrow. You mentioned Baylor in the break, Adam, and I want to start with that game and Baylor's opportunity here at home against Kansas. KU on the road is a totally different team than KU at home. Fog Allen's been tremendous on the road. They've lost to teams like Central Florida this year on the road in the Big 12. You like Baylor to win and cover tonight, or tomorrow rather?
I do, and it's 4.5. It's moved from 3.5. Don't be surprised if it gets to 5.5. So you may want to consider betting this thing. Obviously, it could very well move. I know people can, not probably viewers or listeners of this show, but people more casual to the betting space that dive into college basketball may look at it and say, well, Baylor's 15, Kansas is 7. Why wouldn't I go with the higher-ranked team, even on the road? It's a short spread, all of that. You got to consider, obviously, the McCullough injury for Kansas, what they're dealing with. Like you said, totally different team when he's not right or completely unavailable. And then Baylor, there's just a little bit, too, of the revenge factor. You know, Kansas won last time out, only by a few points, but he was there. He was available for that game. It's a different roster. It's a different makeup for this one. And you give Kansas, obviously, that edge being the home team, or Baylor, pardon me, being the home team here in this situation. I just think, look, it's chalky. If you look around, anybody that you may consider tailing, following, whatever, like everybody is on Baylor tomorrow. Everybody. And that can scare people, but what I have noticed is, I don't know if you feel this way, definitely is, let's say in the second half to this point of the college basketball season, there are a lot of people that are pretty unified on certain plays, when we get to these Saturdays or Tuesdays, Wednesdays, whatever, some of these bigger games. It just feels like, man, everybody is on the same side. Everybody is on this dog. Everybody is on this favorite. But the thing is, and I don't want to jinx tomorrow, like it might be my biggest bet of the day, Baylor to cover in this one, but at least I don't have a number in front of me. I'd have to attempt to look it up, but I feel like anyway that these chalky plays more often than not have hit. It's not to say that basketball is predictable per se, but I think that there are a lot of people, a lot of smart people out there that have been able to just, to a man or all together, come up with the right reads on these games, and it's proven to be pretty profitable. The first few weeks of the college basketball season, everyone's just sort of trying to figure things out together. Now you have so much data between KenPom and people's individual models, samples of seeing teams having already played previously, obviously analyzing the injuries, all of it. I don't know if you see it the same way, but I feel like, a lot of these chalky plays have hit. I think they'll continue to hit. And then obviously you'll get into the unexpected madness that is, the tournament in a few weeks. But right now, I like it.
I guess I'd push back on the idea of what a chalky play is. I don't think there really is ever anything that's chalky or not. I mean, I think there's people will get into a certain circle or a certain echo chamber and they hear the same play over and over again, but the general public doesn't really hear that and see that. So, I mean, I try to stay away from most of that. Like, I could care less what anybody else is betting. I could care less what you're playing or what Dave Sherapan is playing. I bet what I think, and we'll see what's going to happen out of it. I mean, KenPom's got it as a 5-point win for Baylor. They lost by 3 at KU with McCullers, like you mentioned. He's going to be out. KU is 5-8 on the road this year, away from home. I mean, they're 7-8 in the Big 12 overall. Baylor is 8-6-1 and 8-5-1 at home. I mean, I think you're right. I think the number is going to go to 5. I think if we do like it at 4.5, I would take it now because I do think you're going to see money in the morning drive this thing up. But I wouldn't go over 5. I would be very careful. 6 would be, I think, too much. 5.5, I think, is too much. So I think 5 is a good number for Baylor. But I mean, KU just has, just recently, look on the road, they did beat Oklahoma by 10, but they lost by 29 to Texas Tech. They lost by 5 to Kansas State. They lost by 4 to Iowa State, lost by 6 to West Virginia, lost by 5 to Central Florida, all on the road this year. So this is not a dominant team. And the one thing, I don't know if I would say chalky plays, but the one thing I would say is laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses. Betting home teams that are short favorites has been pretty consistent, has been a pretty good play this year to come in and watch teams get W's, because I think right now winning on the road in college basketball has been the most difficult. Front page story of ESPN.com today on how many top 25 teams have lost on the road this year. I mean, we're approaching historic numbers where if you have that little number next to your name and you go on the road, most likely you're coming home with an L. And that's going to make the tournament very, very interesting. The other game that I have my eye on, obviously, because I'm such a Creighton basketball, whatever you want to call me, homer, reporter, fan, I'm all of the above. The Jays are at home against Marquette, the annual whiteout game. Now, I helped to start this. I helped to start this, okay? When the Creighton University, they had never done whiteouts. I was afternoon drive. I did the pre and post game show for Creighton University in Omaha. I started going to the PR department at the university and saying, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't you doing whiteouts? Everyone's doing whiteouts. Well, now, I mean, the first one was back in 2006, I believe. So we're almost 20 years into this now. It's the annual game, and there's thousands of T-shirts that get sent out now, and it's Marquette. 4-point win, according to KenPom, for the Creighton Blue Jays. I'm pretty close to the program, so I'm kind of the wrong guy to ask about this, but I think the Jays have a decent shot at covering as long as they hit their threes, which is pretty much the story every single time that they play. They hit their threes, they do well. First matchup didn't go very well, though. Marquette wound up getting the W there, 72-67. That game was in Milwaukee. You like the Jays tomorrow?
I already bet Creighton with, and I didn't even do it with the bias knowing that I was coming on to work with you tonight. Although you didn't have to ask me which way you were going to go. I already knew. No, I think it's the better pick. I think you obviously highlighted home teams, better teams for one, but home teams, short favorites. And I think, people can get into the narrative street of whiteouts and things like that. And yeah, the fans get into it, and that in turn does impact the environment and amping up the players and just bringing more energy into the arenas and all that. So I love all of that stuff. I wouldn't bet because of it, but I do love all of that stuff. And it does only help, right? It's a level of confirmation bias to the bias that I already have, but that is on Creighton. I've bet Creighton a number of times this year with overall some pretty good success. I just think this is a team, a favorable matchup, obviously, and I do think they're going to go out there and execute. I wouldn't be at all surprised. I don't know about you if this thing actually turns ugly, if they end up winning by 15 to 20 points. I think this thing could really turn into a rout.
They beat Seton Hall by 21 after they lost on the road to St. John's. They beat UConn, the number one team in the country, for the first time ever in school history by 19. They beat Butler by 22, Georgetown by 22, and Xavier by 7. They've won 5 of 6 straight up. But on the flip side, Marquette just destroyed Providence by 22, beat Xavier by 24, beat DePaul by 34. They lost to UConn by 28, the team the Jays beat by 19. They beat Butler by 6, St. John's by 11, the team the Jays just lost to, in Georgetown by 34. So you're right. I could easily see it getting away from Marquette, but this is a clash of titans tomorrow. I cannot wait to watch these two offenses go up against. The Jays have the 11th most efficient offense in college basketball. Marquette is 21st. The Jays are 3 in effective field goal percentage. Marquette is 16th. But the Creighton defense, I think, will be the difference. 12th in field goal percentage defensively and 23rd in efficiency defensively. Kalkbrenner and company, I think, gets the job done tomorrow. Hit their free throws. Roll Jays tomorrow. Matt and Adam, more to come. Don't move. InGame Live.
A great point guard, a great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole. That's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Perrault Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The Lakers lose by double digits last night on the road in Phoenix against the Suns. The Suns get their first victory following the All-Star break, winning by 10 in covering.
Anthony Davis played 42 minutes in that game. LeBron James played 37 minutes in a loss. This is the same thing. It's like repeating this over and over and over. Sure, if you want to win these basketball games, yes, but you sort of say to yourself, all right, at what cost do we have?
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
After 3, Celtics lead at 102-90. Adam Kaufman, Matt Perrault with you guys here in-game live. I need a three-pointer from Luka Doncic here. I'm going over 3.5 threes. He's 3 for 9. Definitely got the volume to go ahead and go over, but that number, this is where the books are so good. They're right there. He needs one more assist for a triple-double. He has 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists. As they go to the fourth quarter, Boston up by 12. They closed as 8.5-point favorites here in that game. So we'll see if the Celtics can win and cover. All right, college basketball, we're hitting on a couple games.
Real quick, just because you mentioned Luka, do you ever find yourself just as a bettor, and this is not a good quality, I'll readily admit, but do you ever find yourself like, not actively, because that would be more passionate than I'm actually implying here, but rooting against a bet that you did not make, like I saw a promotion on one of the sports books, boosted odds for Luka to hit a triple-double tonight. And I considered it. I didn't play it. And now I'm sitting here watching him one assist away and going, I hope he doesn't get it. I don't want him to get it. And it's like if you told me, oh, you bet it, then fine, I'd root for it because I'm not going to sit here and root against your happiness, root against your wallet. But I don't know anyone who took the bet. So screw them. I want it to lose because I didn't play it.
I don't care about those as much as I care about my own. Like, I was very mad at myself for not betting on the Wizards last night against the Lakers because there was no way that the Lakers were going to cover that number. Like, that was a bet that should have been made. And I was so mad at myself because LeBron scored 21 points in the fourth quarter of the game before. They had an amazing comeback against the Clippers. And they're going to walk out there and think the Wizards can't do anything. And they wound up going to overtime and didn't cover the 9.5-point number. So,
right.
I get more mad at that. I get more mad at plays I'm like Lakers cover, because then I don't kick myself for going, I knew that was going to happen, and why didn't I bet it? So I get mad more about it myself. When I knew a play was one I should have made and I choke on it and I don't bet it, and I'm like, man, that's how I feel about the Ramblers. If the Ramblers win this game against Dayton, I'm going to be mad because that was the last game that fell off my card tonight. I was going to bet plus 1.5 for a home dog. And I was like, I can't play it. So that's why I'm paying attention to that one, because I think Loyola's live.
That's the should have bet more mentality, though, right? Like, anytime that we, make a play that we have conviction behind, but we don't go crazy on it. We don't put half our friggin' bankroll on it, for all those people out there that don't have unit management and any of that. You sit there and say, oh, of course it hit. I knew it was going to hit. I should have bet more. But honestly, how often, me for sure, how often do we make a play that we're sure is going to hit, it doesn't hit, and then you're relieved you didn't bet more? In fact, you're angry you even bet as much as you did. So I feel like we're just eternally unhappy people in the gambling space.
I'm really conservative. People say that I'm not really a gambler. I don't really gamble because I bet one. Whether I love the play or I kind of like the play, I don't bet any different. I'm pretty consistent with how much money I put down on every play, just because I bet every single day, and so betting every day. I bet every day for my job. So betting every day, I want to stay in the game for as long as possible. So I got to be careful that I don't. If I really like a play, it's 1.1 units down. If I kind of like a play and I bet it, it's 1.1 units down. And I win, I move on. I feel more angry about the losses than I do the wins. Winning is a relief. Okay, I was right. I'm happy I was right. if I'm wrong and I'm like, my goodness gracious, that was really frustrating, the losses hurt way more than the wins on that.
Always.
So I try to be conservative if I can.
So you bet the juice to win a full unit?
Yeah, always. I bet 1.1. Yeah,
I'm the other way. I'll flat unit bet to and accept that there's obviously less coming back on the other side versus
I did that for a
I mean, this is also. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been doing the daily juice. I've been doing that for 3 years. In the first year, I did that, and then during COVID, I started to do the math, and I had time to sit there and do the math, and I realized that it was impossible for me when I got hot. I didn't win enough coming back to make up for the times where I was ice cold, because I was losing 1.1, 1.2, whatever on a flat wager. I was losing 1, but I was only making back 0.9 or 0.8. And over the course of a month, I was not able to overcome that unless I was betting more dogs and taking more plus money bets. So that's why I decided to go and lay the juice down, because I was like, all right, look, I got to win a full unit back when I win to make up for the fact that I'm losing 1.1 or 1.2 when I lose.
Yeah, but that also, I guess, speaks to, and again, this is like there's no right wrong. Everybody does this differently, but that speaks to the types of bets you're making. Like you said, generally you're going to bet, obviously occasionally some plus money bets, I'm sure, but what you're talking about, minus 110, minus 120. I might on occasion, if I really like something and I see value in it, I might bet something that's minus 150, but I'm not going to, I'm not going to put 150 down to win a unit. You know what I mean? So I'll accept that less is coming back the other way. So I haven't sat and done the math to see how, like what it would look like in this alternate universe, like you're talking about. And I probably never will. I'll just, do it this way, or I'll do it the other way, and I'll, never know which one was ultimately more profitable. But this is what I've been doing for now anyway.
Yeah, the reason why is because the books, they're always ahead of us. So it's always 110 versus 100. So if I'm always $10 down, if I'm flat wagering and I'm going to win $90 coming back, but I lose 100 every time I lose, that it's difficult for me to make that up over the length of time as we go on. And I don't bet parlays. I don't bet same game props or same game parlays. I don't do any of that stuff. So like I'm betting straight plays. I'm betting totals. I'm betting sides. I'm betting props. And I'm rarely ever parlaying them together. I do a lot of future bets. So I do put one full unit down for like a 15 to 1 or 50 to 1, whatever the future might be. So I've got Marquette, Creighton, Arizona, and North Carolina futures right now. It's 30 to 1 on Creighton. It's 20 to 1 on Marquette. It's 11 to 1 on Arizona. And I believe it's 14 to 1 on North Carolina that I have. And I'll be playing off of that. I make that bet basically to hedge off of it come tournament time when we get into the bracket. But those are the times where I'm laying one unit, and occasionally I will lay more than that, because I had a bunch of units. Like I bet against the Ravens in the AFC Championship game. I bet against the Chiefs. I guess I didn't bet against the Chiefs. I did bet against the Chiefs. I had a couple bets on the Chiefs, with the Chiefs and against the Chiefs, future wise. So I'll play off of my futures that way, and I will bet more than one unit in those situations. But generally speaking, I'm betting 1.1 units or 1.2, depending on the juice, just to win a full unit coming back on that. All right, Alabama, Tennessee tomorrow is a monster basketball game. Speaking of moneyline juice, you want to lay it's 150 with Alabama at home against Tennessee. They're laying 2.5 here. According to KenPom, this is a 2-point win for Alabama, 85 to 83. I think the total's in play here, Adam. I think I would lean towards the over in this game, even though it's 167.5. That's high. I think we're going to see a really fun basketball game. I would lean towards Alabama, though, to win and cover.
Yeah, I just personally am much better with spreads than I am with totals, at least in college basketball. And, not to say I'm like this, oh my God, tail all my picks. I get plenty of stuff wrong too. Don't get me wrong, but I would, be more inclined to, go with Alabama, the -2.5, or wherever you wind up getting it, somewhere in that vicinity. I just, you look at it, you can say, okay, Crimson Tide, they're 13-1 on home court. It's a Tennessee team that struggles to defend the three. Now, Alabama isn't always hot from three, but if in fact the Tide here can, get into a rhythm, then as they have been prone to do, then I just think it's a really advantageous spot, and they could end up winning this game by 8 to 10 points, something like that. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Tennessee does keep it close, if it gets a little sweaty down the stretch. But yeah, I mean, I would be I would have a different feeling about this. Home away it means a lot to me. Maybe it doesn't mean a lot to people out there. It should, in the college environment, mean a lot to you as far as I'm concerned. And so Alabama being at home, being as dominant as it is at home, I think is enough to warrant the 2.5-point spread, and I would support it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun game. I mean, Bama, pace of play, they're 11th. Tennessee is a team that can run at times. They're 65th, but this is a big revenge spot. Alabama went to Knoxville and got their doors blown off 91-71 back in the middle of January. And not to say that they're different. If Tennessee wins this game, I haven't purchased a Tennessee Volunteer future yet. I have wanted to, but I got people who really know Volunteer basketball who are telling me that, look, they call him regular season Rick for a reason, because Rick Barnes is great in the regular season, and when it comes to the tournament, he's just horrific. But Dalton Knecht is such a difference maker. He's the type of player that when it comes to the tournament, that he just says, give me the basketball and get out of my way. And in tournament settings, I always look for a team with a killer. When the game's on the line, who are you giving the basketball to? Who takes the game-winning shots? It's been a big knock on the Creighton Blue Jays while they lost to San Diego State last year in the Elite Eight. Didn't have a killer. I think Dalton Knecht's a killer. I do. I think he's that type of player. I think he can go for 30 on any given night, and he can really do some damage in the dance, in particular on a neutral court in a non-conference game. I can't wait to watch this, because if Dalton Knecht goes off like he did in the last game, he was unbelievable for Tennessee in their last game, going off against Auburn, winning that game 92-84, covering the 7.5 point number. It was one by 8. He could be awesome tomorrow on the road, but they're, again, a team that plays really well at home, and on the road, Tennessee has not been nearly as good. Alabama is tremendous at home, and on the road, it's not been nearly as good. So I mean, the point spread show it off. I mean, 4-9 Tennessee on the road. ATS, Alabama 11-3. I'm taking the home team. Give me the Tide. I'll lay the 2.5 points with Alabama here in the SEC, which is going to be an absolutely awesome game coming up tomorrow. There's a couple other college games that I want to touch on before we get to Cam Stewart. Although Cam's on next. We'll get to Cam. Maybe Cam will play it. We'll talk to Cam on the other side. Cam. With Cam. Picks, plays, and more. NBA update as well. Cam Stewart next year on InGame Live.
Point guard, a great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole. That's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of a spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Perrault Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The Lakers lose by double digits last night on the road in Phoenix against the Suns. The Suns get their first victory following the All-Star break, winning by 10 in covering.
Anthony Davis played 42 minutes in that game. LeBron James played 37 minutes in a loss. This is the same thing. It's like repeating this over and over and over. Sure, you want to win these basketball games, yes, but you sort of say to yourself, all right, at what cost do we have?
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It is a Friday night. Adam Kaufman, Matt Perrault, now joined by our friend Cam Stewart to break down his thoughts, picks, and plays. Celtics are up by 20 on the Mavericks. Luka did get his triple-double, though, 35 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists. Not his fault, but the team is down 20. Boston looking like they're going to cover that 9.5-point number, 6 to play in the fourth quarter. Cam, how are you on this Friday night? Did you bet golf this weekend?
Oh, did I ever? I bet golf, and you know what the worst was? After I gave you your big spiel, Matt, I tell Wetzel, I'm like, oh, take Eric Cole. He's top 10 every week. The guy finished like almost last, like this week. He shot like a 78, whatever. So, but I do have lots of guys lingering in contention. We live bet CT Pots and Pans at 55 last night. He's now 25, 3 shots off the pace. And I'll give you one more guy before we get to the other stuff. Matthew Fitzpatrick. He took a double bogey. I got him pre-tournament 35. He's 60 on FanDuel. Listen, the guy's had 4 double bogeys so far at the start of the tournament. He's 5 under. The leader's at 11. Bud Cauley, a guy that's coming off a medical, basically had a medical problem. Like, I used to love Bud Cauley. I bet him all the time, and it looks like he's getting healthier. But asking him to go 2 more rounds in the wind and with this lead, I'm looking at guys like British guys. Lowry is a guy you could watch, but Matthew Fitzpatrick is my live bet at 60-1. As Adam knows, I throw a lot of logs on the fire. Like to keep my place warm. So I already have him pre, and you want to give me almost double the odds on a guy that's won a major, I'm in. I really liked his play this week. He made a couple really stupid mistakes. He should be right at the top of the leaderboard, but he's got 36 holes to make up basically 6 shots. And at this course, I've seen guys make up 6 shots in 2 holes. So I think this is the perfect tournament for live betting. They're expecting a little more wind and rain over the weekend, and that's when guys are really going to go backwards. And the guys who play par golf and steady golf are going to do really, really well. So Fitzpatrick made my card, guys. And I'd also watch out. There's another guy, Matt, that I was looking at too. Alex Noren, 90-1. Another guy that's a really good Swedish guy, good win player. Those are 2 guys I look at. If you guys want to take a flyer on 2 guys, Noren and Fitzpatrick, 60 and 90-1.
I know we're going to talk some college hoops and dance around maybe the NHL slate tomorrow, all sorts of stuff while we've got you. But I mean, you called it out during the break. I'm tempted. I need to hear a tennis play out of you. I don't think you. I don't know how many hours you and I have spent together doing shows. I don't think you've ever said the word tennis. How do you have a tennis play that you love?
I got to be honest with you, Adam. I should stick to tennis and like Europa League soccer. The bigger the sport, the worse I get. I'm dead serious. Like if it's a B league, a D league, whatever, I usually do well in these things. The minute like these numbers are sharp, but anyway, we got a battle here. Casper Ruud and Holger Rune. It's the Nordic battle. We got Norway. We got Norwegians going. Okay, anyway, these guys are actually top 10 players in the world, Matt. Let me finish. I've been doing some research. I watched these guys play. Rune is the dog, plus 132. I'm on him. The last time they played, he won in a 4-set thriller. And then before that, Ruud, it's hard to understand. It's R-U-U-D and R-U-N-A. Rune versus Ruud. Not Ravishing Rick Ruud, Casper. So this is what we're doing. Plus 132, match over. Will it go over 23? Yes, I like the over because I think it's going to go the distance with the dog, and I will take him on the spread at plus 2 games. 3 tennis plays for you. Rune +2, Rune +132, over 23 games. See, guys, I'll come to the show with different stuff. Golf and tennis.
Love it.
That's my name.
Yeah, that's different. All right. How do you watch these things? Do you bet
Yes,
them and forget them?
I love
Do you
tennis.
watch these things? Like, where do you? What channel is this match going to be
No,
on?
TSN will pick it up here in Canada. I got to be honest with you. My girlfriend's relationship was saved through tennis and golf betting. It's what we bet on together. We do three sports together. She doesn't like hockey betting unless like I'm really into it, and she'll cheer for the Leafs because I'm a loser, and she wants me to be happy. She'll cheer for the Raptors because I want the Raptors to do well, but it's been a rough year and other stuff. But I'm going to say this: when we go on trips to the casino, we bet on 3 things together: horses, tennis, golf. She went in tuned to a bar one night, Matt. I'll never forget this. We were like drinking all day and like partying and at the horse book. She walked up to the guy with golf picks and like threw down. She picked the 2nd place, 3rd place, and 4th guy in a tournament. Bought 4 tickets, everybody but the winner. And the guy goes, he brought me over. He goes, what the hell's going on here? He goes, what's up with your girlfriend? Like, she's like, study golf? I go, no, those were blind drunk bets. And she hit the second, like literally almost everybody. And the 1st place guy, Charlie Hoffman, finished like 8th. Every bet was like 8th, 2nd, 3rd, 4th out of 4 bets. I went, oh my God, like, why don't you pick golf for me every week? But she just had a hot week at the Texas Open.
I guess anyway, so.
Yeah. I met her at an OTB, Matt. I'm not like, people are like, where'd you meet your girlfriend? Oh, through a friend or on a dating app. No, I met her at an off-track betting facility where I used to work.
Met her at a meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Cameron, can you change the channel? Can you change Aqueduct to Gulfstream? Yes. Would you like to go to the date? Sure, sounds good. Yeah, I'll get converter. Yeah. There we go.
I challenge anyone out there to find a perfect match for you the way Cam has with his girlfriend. My God.
I wouldn't say perfect match. It's a lot of fire. We need some more water in a relationship. It's too much heat, to be honest with you. A little too spicy. But Matt, every time I come on the show, I think you think of me as like even more insane than the last time. So that's probably a good thing.
No, that's not. No, that's definitely less insane. It's definitely less insane than you living in the red knife, Yellowknife, Alaska.
Yeah.
Yellowknife. Yeah. That takes the cake. Your Yellowknife, Alaska story. That nothing's stopping that. So you can't shock me anymore.
You can't bet on native sports, buddy. I could if they had lines for knuckle hop, airplane, and Alaskan high kick. Hey, I'd be your guy. But unfortunately, we haven't hit that. We haven't hit that yet. But soon, when the Arctic Winter Games are on the book, then I'll be your guy. Inside information. You're ready to rock.
Oh my gosh! So Rangers play the Maple Leafs tomorrow. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Jack and I are betting wings and beers. I'm on the Leafs. I think the Rangers are a little bit better. Leafs are at home. The Rangers usually play them pretty tight, but I think the Leafs are kind of really. I really like the fact that Joseph Wall's back. Hey, Matt, their top goalie, and he actually played really well against Arizona. They almost gagged that game away. Nothing's easy with these guys. They go up 3-0, then it's 3-2, and he stands on his head for them to get the win. But he's the real number 1 goalie. I know he's a young guy, but he's confident and strong. As for the Rangers, I don't have to explain myself with them. Shesterkin's one of the best in the league. They're a very deep team. Jack's a Rangers guy. I'm a Leaf guy, and probably going to be coming to New York in April. So we're going to bet lunch, some beers, wings. I'm on the Leafs. He's on the Rangers. Should be a classic game.
We can get back to tomorrow's slate, Cam, in a sec here, but we do have one more game on the docket tonight, today, a late slate, and that is the Devils, the Ducks. So I'm investing the over in this one. It's one of the I don't know if I would call it one of the bigger plays that I have today, maybe a medium-sized play. Unlike Matt here, my bets do range, in size depending on conviction behind it. I like the over 6.5. What about you?
Matt's a guy I wish I was more like, because D for discipline is his name, and I'm the opposite of that. Like every characteristic that is like, measured, smart, whatever, I'm just like, oh, okay, I like this game. Click. Like me and Morency and you, like we're just different guys. We just don't do it. We don't really follow any smart things. But hey, when you're winning, it's great. When you're losing, it sucks. But anyway, I'm on the Devils as well. We talked about their home road splits. I will say this, I'm taking them in the first period, even though I was on San Jose the last game they played, and the Sharks did score the first goal. But then, as you remember, Matt, New Jersey scored 7 before the Sharks got the last goal of the game and a 7-2 loss. So I think the Devils are going to ramp it up. I prefer them on the road. I will take them -0.5 in the first period to a little bit of plus money. Over 6.5, I'm with you, Adam. I see, I know Dostal is one of these goalies. He can be really, really good. He's a hot and cold goalie for Anaheim, but I just think the Devils, they're getting a little bit healthier, firepower, and I think they have to come out of the gate hot. They can't afford to go down. they score a lot of goals too. You saw the Anaheim San Jose game. That went over. I usually take Anaheim overs on the road, but lately they've been a little bit loose at home, and I think the Devils can get 5 tonight, and I think Anaheim will probably get about 3. So that's kind of the final score that I'm looking at right now. So I'm on the Devils too, and let's hope we get it, buddy, because it's a big play for me as well.
Game of the day in the NHL tomorrow. Winnipeg is at Carolina. Who wins?
Under. I'll take the under, even if it's 5.5 with Hellebuck there. Winnipeg, that was a really bad performance against Dallas in that game. They just looked very flat. Like, the thing about Winnipeg is, Matt, like, I don't know. I know they're a good dog in the playoffs with Hellebuck, but can they score enough? Because eventually you're going to have to score. And like another team can. Some other teams can beat you 3-2. But I think Winnipeg could be live, but I would take the under in that game. I see a 3-2 game at max for somebody. So any other hockey that you're looking at tomorrow? Because it's a nice card. Oh, there's great cards in everything tomorrow. College basketball, hockey. Saturdays are just lit. And I got to keep my eye on the golf, too. If the conditions turn sour, I got to have my button ready to go there, nice and hot, or charge up the phone because there's going to be a lot of live betting going on.
Your trigger finger. I can't believe your phone doesn't overheat on a daily basis.
It really, actually, it does. It gets very hot, and then I got to turn it off and do it again. Yes, it does overheat. I'm surprised.
Vegas at Buffalo. Vegas at Buffalo over tomorrow.
Vegas at Buffalo.
I like tomorrow.
Oh, my God. What do you like, Matt? The over?
Over. Vegas can't play. Vegas and the Bruins are both playing over games left and right. They can't play under games anymore.
They've actually played unders recently, if you can believe it.
Yep.
Take a look at their last 4 or 5 games. They're like just going under the number, but that's the thing. Vegas knows they can get into a track meet with Buffalo. That game's got 5-4 written all over it. I agree. Over. Buffalo's kind of sneaky in the afternoon, too. Is that an afternoon game tomorrow? They usually play one of the first games of the spread.
It's it's 7 o'clock. It's 7 o'clock Pacific, 7 p.m. or 7 p.m. Eastern. It's the ESPN hockey night of the game, hockey night of the week. So you get some primetime coverage on it.
Good call, too. ESPN game, lots of penalties. People like goals. I really don't. Like Matt, I'm a different guy. Like, I'd rather see a 1-0 game than a 7-6 game. I'd love to see great goaltending because when you played the game, you appreciate good goaltending and defense. That's me. Like, I love low-scoring hockey games, but we won't be getting any of those till the playoffs. The way the NHL's going right now, guys, it's so crazy. Like, on Sunday, I went like 6-1 to the under, and then tonight we got both games over, and we're on the Devils over. So hopefully a 3-0 sweep with overs tonight. Very weird league.
So Matt said that Bruins are playing overs left and right. They're playing overtime games left and right. It's 6 out of the last 7, I think. That's 7 straight 1-goal games the Bees have been playing in. They've got points in all of them with all the, pity points they've been getting along the way with those extra time losses. But what's the expectation here on the road on the island against New York?
The Islanders play Boston tough. They have been for years, but it's just one of those situations. I'd actually look at the Islanders, Matt. I don't know how you feel. I think the Bruins are a great hockey team, but they see the big picture. It's about getting into the playoffs and staying healthy. They need good goaltending as well. I don't know what to do with this Eastern Conference. I can literally say, like, Carolina looks good to me. The Rangers look good to me. The Leafs are actually not getting respected by the books despite being gaggers. Florida looks good. Like, I look at for value guys on the board right now. I look at the Rangers at 5-1 and go, that's a pretty damn good price. I think they're a very, very good hockey team. Like, very, very good. But if the Devils get in at 12, do you think they can do anything? They need a goaltender, and if they pick up one at the trade deadline, anything's possible. But I need more than 12-1. They're not even in a playoff spot yet.
Right. Got about a minute left, Kim. Anything tomorrow that you like? Anything tonight that you like that we haven't talked about yet?
Would you like me to get into ladies golf, or is that a little bit too? Is that too ridiculous?
Is that too
winning
niche?
Tickets or winning
whatever
tickets?
you want.
Winning tickets or winning tickets? We don't care.
Oh, okay,
you can talk
good.
darts if you want, buddy.
Have you guys been betting on darts or?
Nah, not yet.
I would love to.
Betting on everything else.
I got a girl for you right now. Canadian Brooke Henderson, 18-1 live. Okay, that's giddy up with that. That's something that I'm looking at. And UCLA's finest, Patty Devanikit, she won last week. Would not be surprised if she went back to back, even though she's about 5 shots off the pace right now. This ladies tournament's been off the chain. HSBC World's Women's. Love women's golf.
Cam, good stuff, my friend. Yep. Women's golf. We talked, I think, every minor sport that there is. We'll watch your top of the hour. You InGame coming up with SportsGrid. Cam Stewart here on InGame Live.
has a great point guard, a great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole, that's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of a spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Perrault Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The Lakers lose by double digits last night on the road in Phoenix against the Suns. The Suns get their first victory following the All-Star break, winning by 10 in covering.
Anthony Davis played 42 minutes in that game. LeBron James played 37 minutes in a loss. This is the same thing. It's like repeating this over and over and over. Sure, you want to win these basketball games? Yes, but you sort of say to yourself, all right, at what cost do we have?
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Last couple of moments with us here on InGame Live, Prime Time. Adam Kaufman and Matt Perrault with you here on SportsGrid. I'll be back tomorrow with Joe Ranieri. We'll go through all the college basketball slates. Is there anything college basketball-wise, Adam, we didn't hit on for tomorrow that you have your eye on?
No, I don't think so. We didn't mention Duke, heavy favorite at home, 8.5, I think is where that one stands. I've got a ticket on that. I've got North Carolina minus 12.5. Again, obviously it's a lot of points. You got to be comfortable with that. Could turn into a sweat, could be a blowout. It's hard to say, but I do like North Carolina in that one. Most of the bigger ones in terms of my own personal investments we've already talked about. I mean, we got so many bets still in front of us tonight that I haven't fully turned the page to tomorrow. I'm a couple hours away from that.
Yeah, I can't wait. Tomorrow, there's so many really good games. I mean, Houston's on the road to Oklahoma tomorrow, which is going to be a ton of fun to watch. We talked about Marquette and Creighton. We talked about Kansas Baylor.
How do you feel about Wisconsin? I bet Wisconsin minus 2.5, but I don't feel good about it because that team has cost me money basically every time that I have bet in a game involving them. Bet against them, they win. Bet on them, they lose. So I bet minus 2.5, so you probably want to go the other way.
Do you know how many times Wisconsin has covered since the 16th of January?
2.
Do you know?
I don't know.
One.
I'm not surprised.
Wisconsin's I bet on them too. I've been burned too. It's remarkable. The only game they covered, they killed Michigan State at home, laying 3. They won by 15 points. They have 2 wins in the month of February. I mean, they lost to Nebraska, they lost to Purdue, they lost to Michigan, they lost to Iowa. I mean, it's been a team that really, really has been struggling. I'd be careful with that with Illinois.
Yeah,
I tend
this
to leave.
is the last hurrah for me, man. This if they don't cover tomorrow, I won't bet them again. I won't even bet a game they are playing in the rest of the year. I will be done, out, banned.
I don't think you'd be wrong to have them be on the cross out list, given Wisconsin where they are.
Yeah.
Good stuff tonight, Adam. Good fun working with you. Appreciate it. Good stuff,
Always.
Jack, on the back end as always. Adam Kaufman, Matt Perrault. Sports Rage is up next. BPB after that here on Sports Grid.